All right. It's the witching hour. We are just a couple weeks away from I think going to be one of the best fights of the year, a fight I've been looking forward to as much as any other fight this year, and that is at the 154-pound weight division for the WBC championship between the current champion, Tony Harrison, and the former champion, Jermell Charlo. This fight is going to be excellent. And it is going to showcase a weight division that I believe has been the most competitive and most interactive at the top level over the, in the last couple years. And I want to talk to you about something specifically that Tony Harrison said and why I think Tony Harrison is making a big error if he believes that to be true in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, and hit the join the membership. If you're a member of the LDBC, that would be greatly appreciated. Or if you just generally support the channel and want to support the things that we do. Also, thank you so much to everybody that supports on the Patreon community and the live stream community Monday through Fridays, right around 11:15 a.m. Central Standard Time, and also OG Boxing Talk on Sunday, our week-ending show. It is my favorite show that we do all week with my partner, Blood Boxing, KQKC Boxing, Trap House Boxing, and the boxing historian Curtis Anderson. Very mature crowd. I think that you'll love the communication, love the back and forth that we have every week. Make sure you show up. Okay, look, man, Tony Harrison, I think, is making a mistake, man. Tony Harrison is saying that he thinks that he is in the head of Jermell Charlo, and he has Jermell Charlo mentally breaking down, how the whole world sees that he has him mentally broken down. And so he thinks that's going to carry on into a victory in the fight against Jermell Charlo, which takes place. I do believe that is in about a week and a half. I think that's in about a week, right? Not this week, the next week. So not this Saturday coming up, but the following Saturday coming up. I think this man is wrong. I think he's wrong as rain. First, I think that Jermell Charlo beat him the first time. Let me rephrase that. Let me say this properly. I would have scored the fight for Jermell Charlo had I been a judge in that fight. Okay, I'm not going to say that Jermell Charlo beat Tony Harrison because that's not what it says on BoxRec. I live with what the judges' decisions are, even when I don't agree with them, because at the end of the day, you're not going to change them. I wanted Pernell Whitaker. I thought Pernell Whitaker easily should have won a fight against Oscar De La Hoya. I don't think Oscar De La Hoya landed 3 punches the whole dang fight. But hey, man, over 20 years later, it's right there. Okay, it's still on BoxRec, and it's going to stay that way forever, no matter what happened since then. Same thing for Jermell Charlo and Tony Harrison. I thought that Jermell Charlo was being the most aggressive. I thought his aggressiveness was effective. However, they didn't score the fight. They didn't score the fight for Tony Harrison, and now Tony Harrison's the champion. But if Tony Harrison thinks that that's going to carry on into the second fight, I think that he is sadly mistaken. There's a lot of things that I believe that led to Jermell Charlo not necessarily being as sharp as he should have been for Tony Harrison on the lead into that fight. And the biggest factor for me was looking back on it, and admittedly, hindsight is 20/20. But looking back on it, the biggest fight coming into the year of 2019 at the 154-pound division was a unification fight for 3 of the major belts, the WBA, the WBC, and the IBF, between Jermell Charlo and Jarrett Hurd. And those guys were supposed to fight one another, but once Jarrett Hurd beat Trout, and then when he beat Erislandy Lara, Jermell, all of a sudden, Tony Harrison got, he got cute. And then all of a sudden, I think he got an injury, but he also got cute and started saying things like, putting the fight off until later, right? Because he's the man at 154 pounds. I recall that type of stuff happening. And so instead of fighting Jermell Charlo, he fights J-Rock, and J-Rock beats him from pillar to post and takes the belt. So J-Rock becomes the champion. Jermell Charlo is now in a situation where the fight that he was looking forward to was no longer available. And then he gets in there against against Tony Harrison. And I don't know if he planned for Jermell Charlo, for Tony Harrison with Tony Harrison on his mind. Now, like I said, hindsight is 2020, and the fight turned out the way that the fight was going to turn out. But this particular fight, Jermell Charlo is focused specifically on Tony Harrison. He's training for Tony Harrison. He's been in the ring with Tony Harrison. He understands that first of all, Tony Harrison is a very, very slick fighter. And I believe that he knows, or at least he should know, that he might have been a little bit too aggressive, trying to knock out Tony Harrison with every single solitary punch, instead of letting the knockout come to him, fighting, scoring points with the jab, scoring points with jabs to the body, and putting rounds in the bank against Tony Harrison, and forcing Tony Harrison to fight out of his comfort zone a little bit and come towards to Jermell Charlo, where then Jermell Charlo can land some significant shots. So that's why I'm saying, man, if Tony Harrison is just expecting that because Tony Harrison's a funny dude. I listened to the different comments that are on different live streams and people's reaction to the press conferences and the face-to-face conversations that Jermell Charlo has with Tony Harrison. There's no doubt if these guys were playing the dozens, that Tony Harrison's going to win that all day. If you're cracking mama jokes and you're just trying to figure out, see who's the most quick-witted, who's got the quickest tongue, who can clown the other guy the best, hey man, without a doubt, Tony Harrison is, he's one of the pound for pound best in boxing when it comes to that smack talk. But look, smack talk is just that. And when you get into the ring, all that stuff goes away. And you're going to now just be, stuck with what you can do. Now, I'm not saying Tony Harrison's not an excellent fighter. He is an excellent fighter. But Tony Harrison has also now been out of the ring since he fought Jermell Charlo, has never defended his belt, while Jermell Charlo got in with somebody else and laid that particular dude out. So, and he did that in expectation in a fight that was expected to be a fight against Tony Harrison. Now, there's another little bit of psychological strength that I believe, or a psychological advantage that Jermell Charlo has for this fight. And that's the firm belief, and I believe a reasonable belief, that Tony Harrison postponed their rematch, because this fight was supposed to already have taken place, but Tony Harrison got an ankle injury, or at least that's what he said, an ankle injury, and he had to push the fight off, which is why Jermell Charlo had that fight, fought somebody in between. Jermell Charlo now has that advantage, to at least that confidence in saying, look, man, this guy really didn't want to fight me. This guy had to fake some type of, phony baloney injury, and to put it off because he really wasn't ready for the fight against me. And so man, this guy might not be that confident. Now, I personally don't think there's not such a big difference in between the skill ability of Jermell Charlo and Tony Harrison for Tony Harrison to believe that this is just some easy walk in the park against Jermell Charlo in that second fight. And seeing as Tony Harrison did say, now this ain't no joke, he did say this. I remember him saying it about a few weeks. I can't remember the date, obviously, or admittedly, I can't remember the date, but it was a little bit before he got an injury where he was getting interviewed, and he said, look, man, I'm not scared. I'm paraphrasing. I'm not scared to fight for this rematch with Jermell Charlo. Shoot, if I didn't want the rematch, I don't have to have a rematch. I could just fake an injury and the fight would be off. Boom. 2 weeks later, there's an injury and the fight is off. But I don't think Tony Harrison could get all the way out of it because Jermell Charlo was the champion and more than likely had a rematch clause where this guy would have to fight him. But look, man, all of that is going to be, all that's going to come out in the wash when this fight happens. And I'm glad that it happens. While I'm saying I have Jermell Charlo winning his rematch, I'm not saying that that's a foregone conclusion because this 154-pound division, and shout out to my man Nino Brown, this 154-pound division is one of the most competitive in all of boxing. 147 pounds is very competitive too, with Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence and Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, Terrence Crawford. This 154-pound division, even though it doesn't have the biggest names, these guys are also are mixing it up with, and actually for the same belts too. Isn't that ironic? Because all of the belts, the WBC, the WBA, and the IBF are all mixing it up in the 147 pounds, and the WBA, the IBF, and the WBC are mixing it up at the 154 pounds. And the only guys that really champions that are not fighting the other champions or ex-champions at all are the WBO champions in Terrence Crawford and the big fraud, Jaime Munguia. But I'm looking forward to this. I'm going to be making videos talking about this fight, just chatting it up. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I'll respond to your comments and we can have a good conversation leading up to this fight. And with that, I'm out. Peace.